What's up, advocates? I know. It's been a while, right? Been a few months. This is probably the longest I've been. Maybe in the beginning, when you're not as consistent. Maybe in the beginning, that has been a while since I've been recording. But since I've been consistent since 2018, this has been the longest that I have went without recording. And of course, it's with good reason. I'll make sure to let you guys know or let you all know why, and we'll get through everything. I got um a whole little task, a whole little what do you call it? Like a to-do list that I want to make sure we get through today. Just go on a journey because it has been a journey on my end. And I want y'all to take the ride with me because it'll explain um my absence. But one of the things that I did want to start off with is that I appreciate everyone that has supported all the media outlets that picked up the podcast and was saying is one of the top podcasts, all the um individuals that reached out to me like, hey, what's going on with the podcast? We miss it. We miss you. Like, what's going on? So I like to thank you all because it actually helped me out a lot as I, went through my transitions and trying to figure out what was my next move. And honestly, when you have timing and then there's God timing and then there's timing that you don't equate for that as far as like, all right, it's God's timing, but the way things are going doesn't always look like what you intended them to look like. And so I just want to say again, thank you to everybody because it meant a lot to me. You more than you will probably ever even get to know unless we get to speak in person. So I definitely appreciate everyone. Um, excuse me, that reached out in these past few months. But yeah, so let's get started in today's conversation because it's a lot to get into. Forewarning, I'll say that early on because I just want to be open and honest is that this is a podcast. So, um, in an attempt to make sure my podcast starts to add more value into individuals' lives, that these podcasts will be longer, they will be more fruitful. Like for example, I know I had guests on in the past, and one of the things that I've been wanting to do with guests in the past is to break down some of the things that we've discussed and dive deeper on, and kind of pull some research out and just get more information. And speaking of research, that's another thing that I want to get into. There's a lot of things that we discussed that we can really go in a little bit more deeper on and provide more value to the listeners and just having conversations. So again, just trying to expand what I've started out doing. I've gained and garnered so much knowledge and attention and information, and I can do a better job. I'm holding myself accountable, excuse me, to doing a better job of having these conversations. If you're listening, I'm not in my usually hoodie snapback or like what do you call it, t-shirt, and it's not because I don't like those things. Like I go to the gym and I utilize the same things. I'm not um disregarding those things, but I've learned that podcasting is a job. It is a job. It is something that you have to take serious. And a lot of times when we dress up, it's because we're taking something serious in the moment. So, if you're listening, I do got a button-up shirt on, but that's on purpose because I want to start treating this like a real profession because it is one. It's just like social media. I'm a millennial. We grew up and we just were posting things and we were video editing and doing all those different things. Shoot, if anybody from the MySpace area, remember we had to copy those codes to get those themes up on our pages. And so I say all that to say that I'm taking my job a lot more serious now. and I'm dressing up and I want to be professional and I want to make sure that I'm providing the best quality in the world to the people that's listening, because I'm again, it's not that I didn't take my platform serious in the past. I just know I can do a better job, and when you're upgrading information and providing new information, you got to be able to upgrade with the times. The iPhones come out, even though they stopped with adding so many different features, but they do add new things along the way, and that's one of the different things that I want to add on to. So um all right, let's dive in a little bit deeper, because I feel like I'm rambling on. Again, there's a bunch of topics that I want to make sure I hit, and I want to make sure we get through them all. One of the things that I started touching on earlier when we first started talking, or when you first started listening, was talking about, like, I've been going through a lot of transitions. That's what it will explain my absence. And what I learned with transitions, especially with this being a mental health platform, or that started off as a mental health platform, we will see, because there is a name change that we got to talk about. But one of the things that I've learned from therapists, and why transitions are tough, and we never think about how tough transitions are, and how they affect us long term. So I um think about having a child, or you think about and becoming a parent. No one prepares anybody that's a parent for that. Same thing with getting married and being a husband. Me and my wife are going through these things right now as we speak, with taxes and combining names and these different things that we weren't taught about and talked about. And so transitions are tough. Job loss, and we'll get into that as well, but job loss, these things are tough, and we don't explain how tough that is. And it's hard because we just have to do it. When we become parents, we just have to become. That's why some people, run away, and disown their responsibility. You think about a returning citizen, somebody coming from out of jail. That transition into jail is tough, and then that transition out of jail is tough, and we don't realize how tough that is until we have to deal with the impact on it. And so I'm going to put up an article that I found on Good Therapy. What is this? Goodtherapy.com or .org. And they talked about transitions. Again, this is me, some of the things that I wanted to do with the podcast moving forward, and even calling the podcast, because I don't think this is only a podcast. This is a platform. But again, going into adjusting to change and life transitions, the article reads: adjusting to change can be difficult and even positive. And let me restart. Adjusting to change can be difficult, as even positive life transitions tend to cause some stress. Over the course of a lifetime, a person can expect to experience a significant amount of change. Some of these changes, as I mentioned earlier, such as marriage, birth, and new jobs, are generally positive, although they may be accompanied by their own unique stressors. Other major life transitions, such as moving, retirement, and entering the empty nest phase of life, which is when parents when parents have no children in their home, and they're in their latter years. Now they have to learn how to live by themselves. Me and my wife can't wait for that, by the way. um that phase of life may cause a significant amount of stress. Those who find themselves experiencing difficulty coping with life transitions may find it helpful to speak to a therapist in order to become better able to adjust to changes that they cannot control. And I think that was one. And I know I'm dancing around the subject a little bit, but again, with the idea of just providing different angles and knowledge, I want to, be able to speak from this perspective, realizing that you can't control everything. You know what I mean? You got to control the controllables, and just deal with the small wins on a daily basis that you get. And so learning that adjusting to change is so hard. And so we want to move forward in the article a little bit more. Because change can cause stress, it can have an effect on one's daily life. A person facing a big change might, for example, experience depression, anxiety, or fatigue, and have headaches, develop trouble sleeping or eating well, abuse drugs and alcohol. Persistent symptoms of stress might improve the treatment and therapy, but an individual, and these for individuals that may not be able to get to therapy right away. Um, these are some coping strategies that you can have with helping with change, researching an upcoming change. So often stress can develop out of the fear of the unknown. When one is well informed about a change, it may be easier to face. Intending to one's physical and mental health. Being healthy in mind and body may make it easier to cope with changes in life. Sleeping well, exercising, and eating nutritional foods regularly may all be beneficial in improving both physical and mental health. Taking time to relax. Whoo, man, man, man. When I tell you I was anxious for these, I was on a high level of anxiousness for these past few months, knowing that I wanted to get back to you all, knowing I wanted to have just express myself. Um, it's so hard to like take that time to relax. Remaining calm in spite of stress may be easier when one's life is well adjusted and includes time for leisure as well as work. And last but not least, limiting change. It may be helpful to avoid making a large change immediately after another change. Generally, and I had a lot of changes back to back all at once, and it was tough. Generally, adjusting to change takes some time, and making multiple changes at once, even smaller ones, may not allow enough time for an adequate adjustment period, which can cause stress. And so like, whew, man, it really is just hard just dealing with that. So those are some strategies that anybody can utilize for themselves, man, because I wish I had the mindset to even look up articles like this, and I'm hoping that with me providing this platform and having these conversations, you can utilize some of the tools and resources that I provide, rather do the research tools that I provide or the people that are on and and anything that we just discuss or have the conversations about. So yeah, I just wanted to start off talking about transitions because that's like the basis of what my last few months have been is transition. And so I want to take y'all back to October 2022. Um, in my mind, or not in my mind, I usually around like maybe August, and I got this, I guess, from I think either the Chinese New Year's or it's something around like in August is the real New Year for like entrepreneurs or just people in general. August should be your New Year. And they likened it to like when the new cars, so the 2024 cars will be out in August of 2023. So they are already 6 months ahead of the new year for next year, that the new year for everyone else follows. And so around August, I think the summer is over. Like you kind of put a cap on the year, or the summer portion of the year, you getting into the fall and winter months. I start to do self reevaluations and start to see, all right, where do I want to, what are some of the things I want to finish off before the new year start? What are some things that I want to start before the new year's start? And just so I can be ahead of the game. And I had realized that in doing that, I started to realize that I didn't, I didn't trying to be fruitful in my answer and really process how I was feeling. I'm sure my journal picked it up. I tell you, I want use journaling. Journaling helps out a lot because I can go back and dive into the emotions. And I wish I had it with me because I probably would read it. But I think I had realized that I wasn't happy with the positioning of my life at that moment. Now, mind you, it was a lot of good things going on. Um, but I think I had realized sort of the things with the podcast and talking specifically or only around mental health. I have so many other gifts and talents that I believe that I can employ on the world, but I felt like I was in a bubble in a sense where I could only talk about Black mental health. And I had pigeonholed from the type of opportunities I was getting, the um conversations I was having with people approach me about. It was only geared to Black mental health. And I'm a Black man. I grew up in Philadelphia, first generation American, the whole nine. So I got Africa tattooed on my arm. So I walk in automatically as a Black man. And I share my experiences often. Um, but that's not the only thing that I am. And I don't want to be like very grateful. Ungrateful is the word I was looking for. I don't want to be ungrateful for any opportunity that has come in my way, but I feel like once you I almost got I married to an opportunity without exploring other opportunities. And uh I just started to, like, they say you can get sick of your own success. Um and I don't want to say that I was, but I can say that um I did start to become a little depressed by that, where I feeling like I'm stuck in this corner and I can't get out of it, because it's something that I do very well. It's something that people look to me for, but it's damaging because I feel like I'm locked in creatively, where I can't, like, even when I'm going out to speak at schools or organizations or anything like that. Hey, we only want you to speak on this specific topic. We only want to have conversations about this. And when I see the lineup or I see the agenda, I see other things that I could speak to, but because they only look at me as that one thing, that they will only keep me in that corner. And again, I want to express that I'm very grateful for everything that I've gotten, every accolade, every article, everything that came has come my way. I'm very grateful, even the support, but it does become depressing. Like it's like almost like where you see the circus is like, do that trick, do that one trick over and over, and it's like, hey, I think I want to try this, but um, people don't look at you for it. Now, I can say that this could only all be in my mind. And again, this is it's a mental health platform. This could only be in my mind. Like, maybe that is something that I was struggling with internally on my own, but how would I ever know? How would I ever be able to figure out if that is true? And so again, going back to August, and I kind of got a timeline of events, so it will help me keep everything in order. Um, I kind of got the timeline of events that back in October that I was going to have to make a shift in the transition. The first thing was this platform. The first thing was this platform, and I'm like, all right, I don't want to totally abandon my audience. I don't want to totally abandon the community that I've built, the relationships, all these different things, but I do have to find a way that it becomes a natural shift. It becomes a natural I don't veer too far off from where my core is. Like, I always want to speak to my core, but I also really just want to make sure that I'm able to expand as well. One of the things being, like, I was afraid to bring other cultures on this platform because again, it was a Black mental health podcast. So can I interview an Indian person? Can I interview someone from Asia? Can I interview someone, a white person? You get what I'm trying to say? And so, um, these things were running across my mind, and I'm like, oh man, will people stop messing with me? Will people stop talking to me? Will people not want to listen to the podcast anymore if I'm not speaking on what they came to hear? And so that started, those things was in my mind. And then I also realized within that space that I was going to have to break some hearts within that. And when I say break some hearts, a lot of the organizations that have trusted me, a lot of the opportunities that have came my way, a lot of events that I just didn't feel comfortable attending anymore. And I use the sports analogy, or there's an analogy out there that says, once it's not fun to you anymore, then you need to quit. You need to give up, or retire. I don't even want to say give up, retire. And I don't want to say that it wasn't fun to me, because again, I've been doing this since 2018. 2018, and that's when I publicly started doing it. I've been doing it way before that, but I qualify as 2018, that this platform has been in existence. And that's 5 years of deepening and building an expertise, building an audience, and again, just not wanting to abandon it. Like you hear artists put out different types of albums that is different from the albums that they've placed before, and you're like, yo, what happened to this? We want you for this. I know I remember Nicki Minaj when she made like pop records. Her core rap audience was like, hey, we used to this Nicki from Queens. Like, what's this Starships Are Meant to Fly and Moment for Life and like, but I understand it because you don't want to get pigeonholed into that girl just from Queens. Like there, I was just watching a Kevin Hart video or interview, and he was talking about how a lot of his core audience, even from Philly, he's from Philly, his core audience didn't understand him wanting to expand out of like the hood comedy clubs or the just the base of only being in a certain demographic when it comes to comedy. He said he wanted to make the world laugh. And that's how I feel about this platform. How I feel about me being able to communicate. I want to be able to make the world heal. I want to be able to make everyone, and this is me not disregarding anybody, but I think I have the gift to be able to communicate, and I think I could do it in wherever you place me at, for whoever you place me at, without abandoning the people that brought me here in the community. Because again, I show up as a black man, a black father who is married to a black woman, who all of these different things, and I feel like I had to stay in that lane to prove it either to myself or to everyone around me. So again, that's what was showing up. And so October, I had reached out to a few organizations and was like, hey, I want to have like a meeting, and just kind of let you know where I'm at with things. And I don't want to say the meetings didn't go well. I'll say that it wasn't received in a way that I thought it was going to be received. I'll say it like that. Um, and again, that's when I knew I was going to have to pivot from a lot of different things. Even being in school, that was one of the different things too. I had started school to become a therapist, and now it's like, do I want to go that route? And I still never I'm still unsure of it, but I also don't know what else is out there. And so, and again, all this time, great things were happening. There wasn't like I wasn't in a there were Netflix specials. We were on a tour with Blackman Hill. I got to meet celebrities, have conversations. We did a end of the year gala, just all these different articles and podcast features and all these different things were happening during that time. But again, you can how my book, if anybody doesn't know, to please go get it. It's called Suffering into Success: A Paradigm Shift of Struggle to Achieve Happiness. You can buy it straight from a signed copy from me, or you can buy it from Amazon. I appreciate the support either way. And you can get it at reginaldahoward.com. Same as plug. But the title for my book came from DJ Khaled's one of his albums back in the day that was called Suffering from Success. And so in my mind I was happy what was going on, but I also was depressed. And one of the things again I want to look up within that time is uh I and I learned this, so this is a therapeutic term, high functioning depression. And I learned about high functioning depression, and I'm trying to find a reputable source. Let's go with the Washington Post. So the Washington Post has an article up here, and I'll share it so those you can see. What does the high functioning depression mean? They asked the experts. In the statement that the high functioning depression is not a clinical diagnosis found in the DSM. the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, that is used by the health professional. It's a term, all these pop-ups, I need a pop-up blocker. It's a term that has grown in popularity in recent years, although some experts has mixed feelings about the use. The phrase highlights a really important point that people can be suffering with mental illness and still appear outwardly able to function or not appear mentally ill to an outside observer, which is from Rebecca Brendel, the president-elect of the American Psychiatric Association. But she also said the term could exacerbate shame and misunderstanding about mental health and depression. Saying that somebody is high functioning, even though they have a mental illness, and of itself raises the stigma associated with mental illness. All right, so um, here's what some experts say about it. Broadly, high function depression is a term that can be used to describe certain people who meet the criteria for a clinical diagnosis of depression, but manage to function day to day in a way that their mental condition probably isn't apparent to others or even to themselves. Jamaica Woody Cooper, a psychologist and professor at Webster University in Missouri, said. Although high functioning can be associated with high power individuals or public figures, that isn't always the case. It can be a teacher, it can be a person who works at a daycare center, it can be a fast food worker. Everyone from all walks of life can experience major depression, and everyone from all walks of life can look like and present like a person with high functioning depression. Clinical depression is diagnosed along a spectrum that takes a person's ability to function into account. But the phrase high functioning depression can be enlightening for those with and without depression. People often carry this image of individuals who are crying, who are stuck in bed, who are suicidal, when in fact it actually looks totally different in people who are functioning every day. Montriella Cohen, a therapist, agreed. Understanding high functioning depression can help raise public awareness that it is possible for a person to be productive, make six figures, and have the biggest house, a nice car, and be depressed. It also can help someone know they are not alone, because a lot of the times people aren't feeling like themselves and they just can't put a finger on it. They just suffer in silence, but now it looks like, oh, high functioning. Okay, no wonder I get up and go to work. All right, so I wanted to skip some of these and just kind of, this is just to get you into the brain of where I think I was at. Again, I never went into I don't want to say depression. What is the word? Never went into therapy to find out if that's where I was at that space, but I do know that I was depressed. And for those who don't know or knew, I have been clinically diagnosed with major depression disorder, anxiety, and PTSD. So yeah, I feel like I was in that space. And I don't know for sure, and I can't uh put the finger on it. So I want to read this last part of it to make sure that I give this information out. What are some signs of high functioning depression? It can be difficult to spot signs of depression in people who might not recognize it in themselves, or who might be actively masking their symptoms and pushing through, perhaps because appearing outwardly strong and capable is integral to their identity, expert says. Brindle says people who are worried about possible depression in themselves or others should watch for subtle changes. We talked about transitions, including shifts in energy, mood, and quality of sleep. I had all three. Those changes could just be a signal that someone needs to reset and prioritize taking care of themselves, she said. But she noted if this persists over a 2-week period, it may be a sign to seek professional help. I don't know. I know that I needed to seek professional help, and I explain later why, because I was in a space that I haven't been in since 2012, and it was about to go crazy. And crazy is a bad word. Don't use it. It was about to get wild. I'll use that. Other potential concerning signs are bleak thoughts about the future, as well as feelings of hopelessness and powerless. Felt both of those. If you're trying to support someone else, avoid making assumptions. Don't, for instance, tell a person they need therapy. Woody Cooper suggests asking questions first and framing potentially concerning behavior changes as things you notice. For example, you could say, I've noticed that when we're out with the group lately, you're not talking as much, Woody Cooper said. and following up with the questions such as, is everything okay? Is there anything you want to talk about? Experts recommend having a referral to a mental health professional ready. It may also help if you're able to share personal experience of seeking mental health support. Admitting or acknowledging that you're struggling that you need help is not an easy thing to do. That's why experts believe one of the most important takeaways from discussions about high functioning depression is the need for conversations, education, and attitude about depression and mental health to continue the change. So I say all that to say that I think I was in that space in some capacity around the holidays. And um to this day, I wish I would have reached out. And the reason why I say wished I would have reached out, and I don't want to get off track, so I'll go back to around the time frame, the timeline. I felt like I've kind of pigeonholed there that word go again. I felt like I had to box myself in a corner where because I know a lot of mental health professionals, I cannot or it'll be hard to seek professional help from them. Now I did reach out to a few of my therapist friends during this time and express. So a lot of people knew what was going on. A lot of people knew what was happening internally. When people would ask me how I was doing, I was like, "Not well. I'm not feeling well," and they would, so I was expressing my vulnerability to them. But I felt like I was going somewhere and I lost my train of thought with that. Oh, I boxed myself in the corner because I can't seek therapy from the people that I know. They're my friends. They're my colleagues. There are people that we probably work together in some form or fashion, and then show up as like it just it won't work. And I'm sure I could have done it, but I think I wouldn't be as vulnerable as I am. Actually, this is my therapy, so I kind of miss this platform as well. But I couldn't be as vulnerable as I wanted to be, if I was talking to my friends. And so, I was at that point. Now, around that time, without going too much into detail, my car breaks down. Um, my car has been giving me problems. I got it in 2021. And it's been giving me problems. It's an electrical hybrid vehicle. Looks nice. Um, I call her Ebony because dark, sexy, whatever the case may be, tinted windows, but been giving me problems since 21. And car breakdown, and with the hybrid, I got a self-charging port. And again, this may be too much for some people, but just to give you the brain frame of where I was at. Um, and so my car breaks down. It always gave me electrical issues. Usually when I gave it a good jump, we would be back on the road as usual. So pick up my kids one day or go to pick up my kids one day. I thought I stopped by and got them some food and I ran in there real quickly. Turned the car off, ran in real quickly, and I came out uh and the car wouldn't start. So I'm like, all right, let me give it a jump. I don't got my jumper cables, huh? Or yeah, I don't think I had my jumper cables at that time. And so I had to ask for that's the like one of the worst feelings in the world when you gotta run around and get some jumper cables, people looking at you like you crazy. Mind you, I'm on a time frame. Uh and I'm like, damn, I'm gonna have to walk to pick my kids up. Like, what's going on? And so I finally walked into this bike shop and got a jump. But a new notice came up on my car and it was something like stop vehicle now, as if the car was still moving. And I'm like, what do you mean stop vehicle now? Like the car not moving, like we good. And so I went to go put the car in drive and it don't drive. It don't go in, it don't shift the gear. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I'm like, all right, so what do I do now? Because I'm on a time frame for picking up my kids. But my car is not starting. Usually when I give it a good jump, it starts and we be on the road, but I guess not this time. So I'm panicking. Look, fortunately, my wife was off work. And she was able, mind you, why was she off work? She was off work because her grandfather just passed away. Rest in peace. she was off work. She was able, and I was trying to give her time to spend time with her grandmother during that time. Oh, and I do got a video. Who see the technology again? I'm trying to give y'all exclusive. So sorry if you can't see it. I know we got a lot of returning citizens in this group. Let me make sure I pull this up first. Um, hold on one second. No, that's not what I was trying to pull up. But I'll still explain it so you guys can kind of listen to it. But the car says stop vehicle now. Call my wife. And she's like, all right, yeah, I could come pick the kids up or whatever the case may be. I feel bad because I'm like, all right, I was trying to be nice and say you don't gotta pick the kids up. I got it. But of course, when you're trying to be nice, stuff just happens. And so, all right, I'm gonna share this screen so you all can see. And again, I didn't know I was taking this contact for this. I was taking it for the mechanic, so they could see what was going on. So you can see my car. You look at it, that thing sexy, ain't it? Right, right. I know. But so I got the jump, and it just didn't want to work. So I go in the car. You can see, lucky my car was clean that day. I didn't want y'all to see. So I jump it. You can see that it's cutting on. But it says stop vehicle now, right? So it's like, hey, but the check engine light on. I didn't have no check engine light on. It just says stop vehicle now, and then it didn't want to move. Um, and so I'm crushed because now it's sitting there all weekend. I'm thinking maybe it needs some time apart or whatever the case may be. Um, but it just wasn't working. So I wound up getting it towed. Got it towed. That was, oh, mind you, that was Halloween night. It was Halloween day, so we supposed to take the kids trick or treating. All of these different things that I just wasn't expecting on happening. That you just don't realize how much your car. So it was. I had to go out. It was cold, of course. You know, it's October, so it's cold. Going through all this stuff, and you like, bro, like, what is happening right now? So it was on a tow truck, had to get towed. So towed to the space, the dealership. Luckily I had a good rapport with them. They was able to put everything in motion for me. And so I didn't get I didn't get no diagnostics till 3 days later. I didn't get no diagnostics till 3 days later. And they told me that that part for the diagnostics that I needed was going to be $2,500, 2,500. And I'm like, bro, I'm already trying to plot my transition, not in the best of spaces. And now my car go down. Of course, when they always say when it rains, it pours, and so you got to deal with that nonsense. And so I'm like, I don't got that type of money right now. It's about to be Christmas season. Like, we gotta buy presents. Of course, you know, you don't have to feel my wife don't put that pressure on you, but you want to do nice for your kids. You remember what it was like during Christmas. And so you still want to find ways to still like incorporate Christmas in a good way. Of course, my wife was going to be able to handle it on her end, um, if needed be, but I didn't want to put that type of pressure on her. So I find out that on top of the parts going to be 2,000 out 2,000 2,500, it don't come for a couple months. So I didn't mind you, I don't know where they like it supposed they kept delaying the time frame that it was going to come. So it was I didn't find out until like December. That the part didn't get out there until December. Because it was on the trunk. It was coming from a different city. I think it was coming from like Missouri, whatever the case may be. Um, and I'm like, I don't know when I'm getting my car back. Mind you, now it's causing problem in the relationship because I don't want to borrow my wife's car, but and people be having their own thing with their cars, and I understand it. Like, we getting into arguments about her car, and not that I'm arguing about her car, but she want her car to be handled a certain way. And I'm like, yo, I ain't gotta deal with this ish if I have my car. So I'm dealing with that frustration. While also battling, like, all right, I'm trying to move on. So I moved past the car story. So we got that. Car broke down, but I got it fixed or whatever the case may be. But during that time, that's where I found out about like feeling like high functioning depression, right? I was depressed. I was becoming so stressed, and I honestly became physically sick as well. I was and mind you, when you don't even know that that's what's causing you sick, you can't even put a pinpoint on it. I was sick. I just thought it was the winter that was making me sick. I was sick all winter, back to back, every week. Just it just kept happening more and more. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I never pinpointed to me knowing that I was stressed about the car and stressed about the transition either, because I'm also talking to the organizations within that time, letting them know, like, I think, or not even, I don't even want to say communicating, but I was trying to find a way of communicating that I was going to be making a move in 2023. And so we got that. And during that time, of course, still just trying to find some type of way to cope through it, I learned about the mood meter. And if you can't see the mood meter, it has if you know about the X and Y axis, or think about a box, where on the left side of the box it got certain things of like you being high energy, and then the low part of the box is low energy, and then underneath is unpleasant to pleasant. And if you can see this visual representation of this box, I was definitely in low energy. And I don't want to say I was unpleasant, but I definitely was down, kind of miserable. I was disgusted. I was in this area a lot, tired, like all these different things. And just was trying to fight through without figuring out what's going on. And so found out about the mood meter, but it didn't it didn't save me from what was going through. um and then honestly, I started breaking out in hives, and I'm like, wait, what is going on? Like, I already had chicken pox when I was younger. Like, I thought I had touched something or whatever the case may be. They like, you can break out in hives through stress. Let me again, we got the internet at our feet, or at our fingertips, so we gonna look it up while we going through it. But I was breaking out in hives, um and I can't how can I say this? I cannot I didn't go see a therapist, so I don't know. I don't know if that is okay. So okay, and I just Googled it just now, and it says, it's also possible for emotional stress to trigger an outbreak of highs. There can be a number of hormonal and chemical changes that occur in response to stress. These changes can trigger blood vessels to expand and leak, causing red and swollen patches of skin. All right, so that's where you gotta have the people of color in these treatment, because mines didn't pop up red, but they definitely were dark spots, like chicken pox or whatever the case may be. So mines was popping up like that. And when I relaxed, they would go away. But anytime, I don't know if that's when you get older or whatever the case may be, that I never knew my body could do this type of trick. I'm learning new stuff now. So that was that. And so that was around the Christmas time or whatever the case may be. Um I'm still working on the car. I started stress eating. Of course, we talk about the dad bod. Um, but I think I was going past dad bod, because I was eating all the snacks in the world, just trying to figure out how I was going to get past this time period in my life, because I haven't felt like this again since 2012, when I started to have these thoughts of suicide and all these different things. And so just to even kind of show you that it was true during that time, I'll go to my page and show you that. Hold on one second. I'm going to play a video so you can kind of see it. Excuse me. All right. So I'm going to describe the video for those who are listening. Make sure y'all subscribe to the YouTube too. So when you tell me life is good, I want better for you. You my twin. You my twin. You my treacherous little twin. You my twin. So for those, let me mute this. For those who are listening and they can't really see what's going on, I put my wife had bought me some flowers in a card because she gave me a flower and some card. This was on December 18th. See, I know my timeline is up to date. Um, uh, because she knew I've been battling with a lot personally, professionally, financially, mentally, and emotionally lately. She wanted me to feel acknowledged, respected, and appreciated. The cover of the card said, I hope that you see the beauty and strength in yourself that I see in you." And so again, that's where I was at, man. Because I just felt like I lost my identity. And I spoke about it in the beginning of the podcast, but I really did feel like I had lost my identity. Um, the way that I was phrasing it to people that I was talking to, was that I had begun to lose what people found. So when you're in a relationship, when you're married, a lot of, and I know I speak more, I hear more of women speak this than I do men, but I'm sure it happens to men too. You get in a space where you lose your identity within the relationship. And you don't like, if you was to hit the dating scene out of a marriage, like even my wife talk about it, if you was to hit the dating scene, you wouldn't know what people find you attractive if you only been, especially if you're getting dad bods and you got comfortable and you was they always talk about that happy weight. You don't know what people find attractive of you. And so professionally, I lost myself with it. I lost my identity, and I didn't know what people found me sexy for, as far as like what people valued as me as a professional. And so that was depressing because I'm like, all right, I want to make a transition, but I don't know where I'm jumping and making my transition to. Like, I don't know what's happening. And so I just, I don't know. It was real depressing because I just couldn't find out who I was in that space. And so moving on into New Year's, I'm like, this New Year's is not starting the way that I thought it was going to start. You know what I mean? Mind you, y'all gotta think, I started my New Year's in August, and it just wasn't going the way that I thought it was going to go. For those months, and so I already know, let the organizations know that I was making my transition. I knew that I was letting go a few opportunities, and so I started reaching out for opportunities. I start I started, like, connecting and talking to individuals about uh all right, my next change, and having a conversation, and mind you, there's one part that I forgot to even write down in my notes, that I started reaching out to people that I trust and was like, "What are some things that you think I offer that people would pay for?" That's how bad it had gotten, y'all. Where I didn't even know what services I could offer because I had um lost my confidence. And luckily, a lot of people gave me a lot of great advice, a lot of good gems, and a lot of jewels, and I appreciate you all because you didn't have to do that. Um, and I took so much from that. And of course, we know how this story ends because I've gotten it back now. But I was in a dark space. I tried to take a photo shoot to cheer myself up. Like, all right, I don't know what I'm rebranding to, but I do know that I'm rebranding. You can kind of see those photos, and I should pull them out, just so that way you could kind of get where I was at. They came out so nice. I knew I was going to transition the podcast eventually. I knew I was I knew I wasn't going to always be in that space. So I'm like, maybe if I, shift and adjust something really, really quickly, then I'll be able to get myself motivated. Like, sometimes it's not about like waking up and you gonna feel motivated. It's just doing stuff until the motivation finds you. And I think a lot of times people kind of forget that. And so I'm going to share the screen again. And this came at the time where I was talking about uh the, what do you call that? I was going to take my job serious now. Like, I was going to take my job serious, and I was going to make sure that we come to work and we do work, and we do what we supposed to do while we're here. Um, so I did the photo shoot. That it worked for a little bit, but I took a photo shoot and didn't. have nothing to lead it to yet. You get what I mean? Because I still was in that lost space of what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to reband, but I had to get my finances in order. Like I had to get my steady income, so I couldn't focus on entrepreneurship. I had to find that steady client, steady opportunity, steady whatever, just to um get out of it. So I started reaching out for opportunities, and I got with this one organization, and this story is always hard for me because it was one of the biggest lessons I learned during this time period. And so in January, I took meetings with this one organization. I won't put their name out there because we may do business in the future, and also they don't probably know the impact that it had. They don't know the place that I was in. They don't know any of these different things that was going on during that time. But I met and I had conversations and meetings with the organization, and we was discussing doing some work together. Met with like board members out of sea overseas or out of state clients, and um just meeting with all these different higher ups and all the people in control of making the decision making process of making this opportunity go through. Did like 5 6 interviews on Friday. This took maybe a month, 6 weeks. And they're like, man, you're so good, man. You're gonna get the opportunity. We love you. You do great with the interview. You do good with the meeting. You do all these different things well. So I'm like, all right, I got this in the bag. I already notified um the other obligations I had, like I would be moving on, and uh I talked back and forth with the person that put me in position to get that opportunity. And don't you know, on a Friday, it was like, yeah, fingers crossed. I told him put a rush on it. I know how eager you are to get started. Um, we would love to have you with us. That Friday morning, I heard that Monday morning it was like, hey, they went with another person. Um, best of luck of you and your journey. I can laugh now, but I told y'all the space I was in, right? I was already crushed. I already didn't have my identity. I had just got my car back, but I was still not comfortable driving it because that happened out of nowhere, and I was scared that it was going to happen again. Um, it just crushed my spirit to the core. It was like a gut punch that I know a lot of people feel, and a lot of people have like had to work through. But I hadn't had to work through something like that in a long time. And I had stopped pursuing other opportunities because of that opportunity, because I knew I was a shoo-in. Um and Man, it crushed me so bad. It had crushed me so bad. And it still brings up those feelings to this day because you couldn't tell me that I wasn't going with the opportunity. And so it sunk me so bad that, again, this is me being transparent and honest, that I had my me and my wife are registered gun owners. I had my gun on the table, pulled it out. I had my laptop on the other end, pulled it out. And I said, all right, you now are coming at the space where your finances are in jeopardy. And so I'm gonna eat regardless. I'm gonna go do what I need to do to provide for myself and my family. And you got one or two options. And I know it's a brother listening to this, and they know that they know that feeling. They know that feeling of, and mind you, I never claimed to be a street dude, never claimed to be a person that do to get into trouble, none of that stuff. I never claimed to be that person. But when you got mouths looking at you and people looking up to you and people looking to say like, all right, you need to do something to make something happen, you start to get real, for lack of a better term, creative of how you're about to handle the situation. And I'm like, yo, I have to do something. And mind you, I'm in a interesting position because I'm not like an unknown person. People know my name. You can Google me. I'm out there. Like people will be able to research me. So I think because of that, that was probably the only I just kept reading the headline and here like my podcast has been featured in the newspaper before, but I'm like, yo, I could just see it featured, like I can visualize and see that feature in a whole different way. And people looking like, what happened? What occurred? Like, what's going on? Look how fast you can see somebody transition really quickly. And so within that time as well, again, I told you I've been clinically diagnosed, or those who have been following my journey, I've been clinically diagnosed. Um, I pulled out all my old medicine. I pulled all those different medicines that I was prescribed by my psychiatrist. Um, and I was scared to take them when I probably needed them, but I was scared to take them because I remember the reason why I'm not on them as much at all anymore is because they would make me feel drugged up, like I couldn't be productive. And I like to go, I like to get it. Um, and so I pulled all of them out. And I grabbed the laptop, none the least. I'll say that I grabbed the laptop, none the least. Wifey came home like, "Why is the gun out just sitting there?" And I explained it to her. We had a conversation. So she again, wife, I salute to her because she was there through the whole time. And which I was my sounding board for a lot of this because I couldn't speak to a lot of people with it, and they wouldn't understand everything in its nutshell. She's been there on all fronts, so she knew everything that was going on. And the one thing I'll leave that story off with, because I've been using it in speaking engagements because it's real, and it comes from a real place, is that all that situation with that opportunity told me is I got humbled really, really quickly. I thought because I was making the transition. I don't know if anybody's fans of Martin's out there that's listening when he was getting that job on the television station, and he was like, they called me. Like, y'all know who I am? And so I again, me not really feeling like I had to sell myself. I'm like, my reputation, the things that I've done and all these things that I had to accomplish should sell themselves. Um it humbled me how hard it was to get get certain opportunities, you know what I mean? And so um I started grinding again. I started grinding. And the one thing I said was I am going to put myself in the position to have the pick of the litter as opposed to trying to how can I say this? I had to make sure I had a lot of opportunities later. I don't care if we had one good fruitful conversation. I don't care if we um you felt like we was the best in the world. Cause sometimes you had those conversations where people make you they pump you up and then you never hear from them again. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make sure, regardless of how the conversation went, I'm grinding. I'm reaching out, sending emails, phone calls, and oh man, speaking of that, shout out to everyone that sent me opportunities. One of my people gave me like, and I don't want to put her out on the business because I don't know if she can get in trouble with that, but she got me a free like LinkedIn goal for the year, so I'm able to inbox certain people that I probably wouldn't have access to, which I'm probably gonna pay for afterwards just to see that how much benefit it is. But so many people helped me with my professional journey, my network, all of the individuals that I had conversations professionally about. Shout out to you all because y'all was able to like pick a brother up, man. And so I started getting comfortable, and as you see, I started to get myself out of this. This is around March. Um, I started to appreciate the importance of small wins. So I may have not gotten one opportunity, or I may not have gotten the opportunities I was looking for, but there was a lot of small wins along the way. Started to hit in the gym. Again, I spoke on it earlier, controlling the controllables, controlling what you can control. Um, so I started hitting the gym heavy. I was in control of that. Like I'm hitting the gym. Right now my goal is to get to 4 times a week, but I've been consistently going twice a week. I'm about to up it to 3 times a week, and then by the end of the year, 4. So if y'all see me out here trying to flex with the shirt off and all that stuff, then just know where it came from. But Yeah, man. That was I started going and enjoying the small wins. Found my sexy again. Found why people mess with me, why people rock with me. Um, I came up with the name, and we'll get into that in a few. For what I wanted to do moving forward. So by the end of it, and again, you still have those hurdles along the way. I had to turn down some opportunities because of some personal reasons that I don't feel comfortable sharing at the time, but I had to turn down some opportunities. But I also was able to have a bunch of opportunities that, you know, was very good and brought me out of my shell. And so when you in that space, and I was just talking to a young man about that the other day, and he was like, well, how did you get out of that? I was grinding, and I started putting it in. Like, I think my goal was to send like 100 emails or reach out and DMs, and just was going. Because somebody said when I was searching for jobs, they was like looking for a job is a job. And so I've always carried that with me. Like, if you're looking for opportunity, that is, you gotta go. And I went, and it was very fruitful by the end of it. And so I was able to land the opportunity with it. Um, it's perfectly, it was perfectly for me, especially coming off where I was at the moment. And so I'll pull this up, and I'm trying to find it. And I hope y'all rocking with me, because again, these are how some of these podcasts are gonna go moving forward. I'm still figuring out how I want to do these different things, but I definitely want to get into more of a solo perspective. Just because sometimes, and even with our guests, when we have guests on, we're gonna dive deeper into some of these conversations. So I want to make sure I cover this so that way, um, let's see if I can zoom in. I don't want to put any too much personal. Y'all already get a lot from me, but I don't want to put too much personal. But let's see. Let's see if I can. All right. Bear with me 1 second. I'm trying to make sure I don't put too much information out there. Um, but let's see. I was able to get a position. Let's share screen at the Psychoanalytic Center of Philadelphia by the end of it. As an education program coordinator. And of course, um, it all of my experience up to that point led me to that point. And of course, there were a lot of other opportunities on the table, but I landed here because it was a lot in alignment with that what I already do. I'm probably going to speak more about that in the future, but yes, I will be the education, or I am the education program coordinator for the Psychoanalytic Center of Philadelphia. And it was a long journey. It went through many different variations of like um what I was going to do next as I transition. And again, I'm not leaving the mental health field completely. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I just want to expand what I do and how I do it. And so that's where I landed. And now once I landed, I was able to get my mind free and be able to um come up more with uh the podcast name and what we were going to do moving forward, all of the different things that led me to this day. So that's what my few months have been like. And um that's why you all haven't gotten a podcast episode in all of this time. Because I was trying to figure it all out. If I'm being honest, like, is you can't offer so much, and this is me being real. You can't offer too much when you're trying to figure everything out. And so how I landed at the new name for this podcast, which again, I don't even feel comfortable with a podcast because we expanding everything. I'm looking at myself not as a podcaster, as a broadcaster. This is not a podcast. This is a platform. and we gonna get through it and have these different conversations in expansive ways. And so, um, how I landed at equity. For one, a lot of these speaking engagements where he's talking about health equity, mental health equity, all these different things. And equity to me has always been something that I was curious about. You hear rappers talk about it, you hear artists talk about it. It's big in the finance world. First of all, can we talk about the logo, man? The logo for equity to me is fire. Like again, doing the photo shoot, doing those different things. And now I look back on it, it really is some version of high function depression because I was still doing stuff. Like I was doing stuff behind the scenes, but I just didn't feel like I was doing it the way that I wanted to do it. So equity, man. You see it, you got the equal sign in the E. You mean you got the scale on it as the T, and this what we doing now. We talking about equity. And again, I said people we was talking about health equity, but I want to get into all forms of equity. And so when we talk about equity, and I want to make sure we again being smart about everything and being able to utilize the internet because it's something that's at our fingertips and being able to have these conversations with I'm in school and they cite your sources, make sure you talk about it. So one of the famous pictures that comes up when we talk about equity is this image right here. And if anybody's listening, I encourage you to go to YouTube, subscribe. But you got three individuals. It's like a father and his two sons. They're at a baseball game. And at the baseball game, you can see that there's a fence, and a lot at the fence is everyone's trying to watch the game from over the fence. And so you got these different pillars of people talking about what the reality is when we talk about equity. And let's give it before I get to that, I'm gonna stop share and just get a definition on equity because I get using not making these things up. We gonna get real live information when we talk about equity, and what it means and how individuals can Merriam-Webster, should I use that? Nah, I don't want to use Merriam. What George Washington University? You know the scholars. You gotta go with the scholars and talk about what the scholars are talking about, right? And so in discussion, let me share the screen. In discussion about equity, uh while the terms equity and equality may sound similar, the implementation of one versus the other can lead to dramatical different outcomes for marginalized people. Still serving, still helping, we still in that vibe. Equality means each individual or group of people is given the same resources or opportunities. So everyone is given the same dollar. Like everyone is equal and getting the same exact resource. I gave you a dollar, I gave you a dollar. You know the old percent. You get a car, you get a car, you get a car. Equity recognizes that each person has different circumstances and allocates the exact resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome. And so if you're looking at this picture here, if you can see this image is showing the difference between equity and equality. Equity, if you see, and if you're listening, there's two individuals they're picking apples from an apple tree, and one has one they're both at different spots on the tree, and one individual has a ladder that they're able to reach the tree is leaning towards their way, so they're able to reach the tree without too much of a help from the ladder. But the other individual, the tree is not leaning their way, and so they have to have a larger ladder to be able to pick the apples off of the tree. And so they both have ladders, but one is slightly larger, and not because they deserve, and I don't even like using that word, they need a larger ladder because of where they're positioned at trying to reach the apples to pick them off the tree. And so when we talk about the illustration above, and the two individuals have unequal access to a system. In this case, the tree that provides the fruit. With equal support from evenly distributed tools, their access to the fruit still remains unequal. So, say we give both of the individuals the same type of ladder, the one that has the ladder and can reach it, they will be good. But the one that has the same size ladder as them, they won't be able to reach it because they would need a higher ladder to reach from their position. The equitable solution, however, allocates the exact resources that each person needs to access the fruit, leading to positive outcome for both individuals. With While the tree appears to be a naturally occurring system, so someone will say, "Well, I didn't bend the tree just bending that way." This is true, but it also doesn't give the person that is trying to reach the apple the opportunity. So while the tree appears to be a natural occurring system, it's critical to remember that social systems aren't naturally inequitable. They have been intentionally designed to reward specific demographics for so long that the system outcomes may appear unintentional, but they are actually rooted in discriminatory practices and belief. And so you can see these different images of inequality, where both neither individuals got a ladder to reach the tree, but one person, the apple, it just keeps so happen to fall in their laps because it's leaning in their direction. And then when you talk about equality, where they both get the same ladder, what we discussed earlier, um they both get the same ladder, but the other individual needs a slightly bigger ladder to reach the apple tree, and the other individual, they just get all the apples. So equity is what we talked about earlier, where each individual gets the exact resources they need. Somebody may need a shorter ladder, but someone may need a longer ladder. And then justice is, and that's one I want to hope to get to eventually, where we just fix the systems and the resources available so that way everybody can get a fair treatment of exact resources. So justice is something that I'm looking to grow to as well. Um, and that's from the 2019 Design and Tech Report. Equity is a solution for addressing imbalances in social systems. So I want to go back to my logo as we read that. Oh, hold on, because I think that that needs to be something that we talk about in its fairness. Equity is what all this platform is about. And again, I'm gonna try to do better at having all these resources readily available. But we're gonna put up my logo because this might get clipped up to go out. So when people asking me why you name it equity, oh, hold on. No, you stay right there. And then we're gonna bring you down, but you stay right there. All right. So equity is a solution for addressing an imbalanced social system. Justice can take equity one step further by fixing the systems in a way that leads long term for sustainable, equitable access for generations to come. According to the World Health Organization, which is WHO, equity is defined as the absence of avoidable or redeemable or remediable differences. Remediable, that's what it is. So let me read that over. According to the World Health Organization, equity is defined as the absence of avoidable or remediable differences among groups of people, whether those groups are defined socially, economically, demographically, or geographically. Therefore, as the WHO notes, health inequities involve more than the lack of equal access to needed resources to maintain or improve health outcomes. They also refer to the difficulty when it comes to inequalities that infringe on the fairness and human rights norms. So that summed up perfectly of where I'm at with things in life, where I've learned so much, especially being in community health, and all these different things. And I'm like, I think I think I could do a better job of providing more conversations around equity in regards to resources. And one of the things that helped me have this conversation, I guess did a presentation on it the other day. So bear with me while I pull it up. Was the 8 dimensions of wellness. And shout out to every mental health professional that taught me about the 8 dimensions of wellness and how it can benefit and help individuals, because that is something that is probably going to stick with me for the rest of my life. As I don't want to say try, as I help individuals and have these conversations, I'm always going to refer to the 8 dimensions of wellness, because that's like I don't want to say easy access. What's the word I'm looking for? That's like a toolkit you can keep in your tool belt to be able to have these conversations to figure out what's going on with yourself in a quicker pace. And so I started to go, the 8 dimensions of wellness helped me learn about like all these different angles of like being able to identify what's wrong with you, what's going on, and things of that nature. And so when we talk about the 8 dimensions of wellness, it's the emotional part, coping effectively with life and creating satisfying relationship, financial, which is satisfaction with current and future financial situations, social, which is developing a sense of connection, belonging, and well-developed support system, spiritual, which is expanding our sense of purpose and meaning in life, occupational, which is personal satisfaction and enrichment derived from one's work, physical, which is recognizing the need for physical activity, diet, sleep, and nutrition, intellectual, which is recognizing creative abilities and finding ways to expand knowledge and skills, and then environmental, which is good health by occupying pleasant, stimulating environments that support well-being. And this is from Swarblock, a wellness approach, which is in a psychiatric rehabilitation journal. And I don't know, I'm gonna quickly go through each individual one, just so you can kind of get an idea. And when we talk about the 8 dimensions of wellness, is you have to look at these like your children or pets, which of these children or pets gets the most attention, which of these children or pets needs more attention, and which one of these you can start working on tomorrow for the next few weeks, month, years, whatever the case may be. And me knowing that, the reason why I decided to and maybe I'll do a whole podcast on it. So I won't go too deep in the 8 dimensions of wellness. We had this conversation, and maybe I'll go deeper on it. But when we talk about equity, these are the things that I realized was I was focused so much on the emotional part, the mental health part, that I neglected all of these other areas that um provides a individual wellness community-wide, nationwide, worldwide. And so equity fits in those different spaces. Social equity, like, are you getting financial equity when you getting your money? Environmental equity, is everybody getting the right resources? Just all these different things. I was like, all right, this where I'm at with it. I think this will be a great way to transition and move forward with that. So um that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I think that's a good space to end it. I don't have an intro or outro at this time. I'll develop it as it comes along. Again, we are shifting. Thank you for tuning in to Equity. It has been a journey. I know I've been talking for a while. I can feel it on my end, but this is how these conversations are going to go moving forward. And having these different topics and kind of going deep. Again, I appreciate you all rolling with me, anybody. And if I turned you off, I understand as well, because I know you came here for a certain type of information. So I definitely understand. But please know that this is how we moving forward. Right? I'll probably be back next week with a guest. But I'm also probably gonna do a solo episode as well. And we're gonna crank some out. I owe y'all some episodes, so we're gonna crank some out. I'm gonna put my blazer on or something with a t-shirt or something, but we're gonna crank some out. We're gonna get some information. Again, I thank you all. I don't know how to close it out. We ain't sharing therapeutic stories no more. We sharing therapeutic information, plus stories, plus resources. We doing it all, man. So I'll see y'all on the next conversation. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll talk soon. Peace.